well, how do I measure up to the things I'm identifying right
Yes.
now? Or even this too. And look at this archetype of a man. Let's see the kind of women he tends to date. Or is that man married? What kind of woman is he married to? Let me.
Welcome back to the Love Stories podcast. I'm your host, Charlene Byars. I am so excited to welcome my next guest to the show today. Los Acie is a certified life and relationship coach, a motivational speaker who helps people heal toxic relationships, build confidence to leave, or move on in 90 days. Drawing from his own journey to wholeness, he now coaches people worldwide to become their best selves for their best life results. Join me for this in-depth conversation about how we all have the power to create the love that we truly desire with the one that we love. And remember, stick around for the tip of the week at the end of the show. Welcome to Love Stories, a relationship podcast for successful women, where we talk about love, dating, relationships, and how great love stories are made. I'm Charlene Byars, and I'm so excited to share all the things that you can apply to create a beautiful love story of your own. Cheers to great love. Well, hello, Los. Oh, yay, my friend. I have been so excited. So
Yeah, me too. Long time in the making.
For the listeners that don't know, we tried to do this before, but we had a little bit of technical difficulties and times and all that kind of stuff. So we had to put it on hold, but we made it happen.
Yeah.
So we're here today, and I've just been really excited because I have so much to share with you.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to hearing about
from you. So I was thinking about this, and I first wanted to say something to you. I absolutely appreciate, and I get all warm and fuzzy when I see men also in this field and the impact that a man is making. And when it comes to relationships, because, for the most part, that's not usually, something overall men are doing. They're not, really understanding relationships. I think a lot of women don't understand relationships, obviously, too. But us women, we talk about it more.
Yeah.
We're more in this. But I really feel, both with men and women, we need it. We need to hear from men. We need to hear from women. And the work that you're doing, and I just love it so much. So first of all, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
It's needed.
I appreciate
It's really
that.
needed. We need to hear from men. But on that note, I work with a lot of single ladies. Okay. Great ladies, single ladies that for the most part, they definitely have, what they would say they have their life together. But one thing that they're missing, and, maybe they've had it in the past before, but it didn't work out. But they're in that place now that they are definitely looking for love. But they can't figure it out. And they keep, running into, men that I call it, the wishy-washy men, because, there's great men, there's masculine men, all the things, and there's wishy-washy men, there's wishy-washy women, all the stuff, right?
Right.
But they're wondering, where are these great men? But not only that, they can't see also how they're showing up. And I would love for you to talk a little bit about the man's perspective and what you're hearing from men in sense of them also wanting to look for a good woman, a woman that, they want to spend their life with. What is the misconnect here? What are we doing? What are us women? Where are we getting it wrong here?
Yeah. I think, man, we can spend 3 hours talking about that, right?
Good.
But not about women, what they do wrong necessarily. But, I think, when you say how or what are they doing, how are they showing up, and why is it not getting the result, if you will, and what men are looking for. So, all right, obviously there's generalizations in that, right? There's always there's an overall thing. But to be more concise, what I would say, I think what a lot of women fail to do for themselves sometimes is ask themselves, for the kind of man I'm looking for, what is he looking for? And am I it? And it's a hard question to ask yourself. And here's where we reason with the other
Okay.
side, right? It's all us together in one team. But when you think about it, men, typically masculine men, if you're out there pursuing feminine women, we are accustomed to growing up, getting used to getting our feet dirty, our feet wet, if you will, getting in there and approaching women and having to talk to them and facing rejection and so forth. So asking ourselves the questions of, hey, what is the woman I'm looking for is easier. And we're in an energy base that's built around, solving problems, building things, taking on challenge, right? And being prosperous and being the champion kind of a thing. So it comes along with adversity. So we grow being used to always refining, going back to the drawing board and saying, what do I have to go do? Because men, very black and white
Yeah.
brains sometimes is I know what I produce, what I put in is what I get back out. And so we say, okay, get it. If I'm going to have the woman I want, beautiful woman that, is a certain caliber, then I have to go be this level of successful man, have my stuff together. It's really simple, easy
Yes.
peasy. But I think a lot of times for women being on the side of the tracks that are on the receiving end of a man's pursuit, and we're in a society that so often talks heavily about a woman's looks and all these different things. Being self-conscious is really easy, and you don't get those reps that men do to be out in the field and facing rejection. So it becomes harder to ask that question of, what is the man I ideally want?
Ooh,
What is he looking for, and am I her?
wow,
Right?
that's a great
Because
perspective.
mhm,
Ooh, I love this
yeah,
already. That's
yeah, and
really
I think it,
important. Keep
yeah.
keep speaking on that.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's at that point to where a lot of women don't ask themselves that question, so therefore they don't try to do the deep dive to figure out where they are missing it to show up for the man they want. Because you can craft, let's say like a Idris Elba or just a Brad Pitt or something like that, right? You can use those as archetypes, but those are two very different men. Even though they might still represent a masculine man or alpha male to some degree, they may not be your alpha
Yep.
male, right? And so if you just say, hey, what are the kind of caliber of men I'm looking for, you're going to do yourself a
Yep.
disservice, right? You really have to say, all right, well, where am I looking to go in life? What kind of life do I look to have? What is the kind of results I'm looking to get? What kind of man, archetype wise, fits that? And they break him down. What would that man most likely value in a counterpart that is a contribution to his life? And so I'll say this as
Yes.
well. I think where a lot of women really shoot themselves in the
Yeah.
foot, for
Yeah.
better choice of words, is when they go out on dates and there's a gentleman that they're really interested in. Maybe he's handsome, has
Okay.
that suit
Looks
on,
good.
whatever the case
Physically, the guy's
is.
looking good. Okay.
Right. He's got all the
Okay.
stuff, right? They're getting to know him, but from a standpoint of making sure they're vetting him to be the right guy for them, right? But they're not taking that date on to do, because you should absolutely be doing that. But then you also have to ask yourself, what am I doing to show him I'm that
Oh, I
potential
love
woman
that. How
for him?
am I
All
showing up?
right.
Oh,
A
that's
hundred
really
percent.
good. You know what? Oh, you just struck a chord here. Let me tell you something. We talk so often about the man. It's
Mhm.
women. We really do. This is real. We talk so much
Mhm.
often about the man. Like, he needs to be this way. He needs to be like this. This is what we are attracted to. We want a man that has purpose. We want a man that's leading. We want, a man that is emotionally available. We want a man that's a gentleman. We want a man, all those things, right? We
Yep.
often, and this is why we're doing this podcast. This is so good. We're here to really change the barrier here. Okay. We
Mhm.
often, and again, ladies, it's not our fault. It's just something we're not aware of. It's okay. This is what we're going to learn this today. We often don't pay attention. Oh, I love this already. How us as women are showing up to attract that type of caliber of
Mhm.
man.
Yes,
Ooh,
absolutely.
that's
Absolutely. And
good.
look, and to expand on that more,
Yeah,
right?
expand
And
on that.
I want to say this. So even my
Okay.
content, right? 95% of the people that follow me are women,
Okay.
right? Because, like you said, hey, women are the ones having these conversations
Yes.
about the
Yes. Yep.
relationships, right? Masculine men tend to be more of lone wolves and all
Okay.
those things. So when that's the case, I know if I'm going to be able to help reach a lot of women, to even help them understand what I've been just now talking about, I have to also speak to their perspective and their
Okay.
position. So a lot of my content will speak towards, okay, hey, look out for these things with men, or speaking to, hey, making sure our man is showing up this way,
Yep.
right? And there's one or two reasons why I even do this, because where yes, women need to very much be aware of what a man's looking for as much as he needs to know what she's looking for. Men, I believe in speaking to the men first and foremost because they're the ones that lead in relationships usually, right? And a woman naturally through feminine energy wants to follow that lead, right? A lot of
You know what I
times.
always say? You know what?
So
I love that you said that. This is what I always say. It's a
yeah,
man's job. He'll pursue, he'll lead, but you get to set the pace as a woman.
100
Yep.
percent, right?
We get
And
to set the
and
pace.
that's exactly it. I always say that. It's like a woman. I always say that too. A woman's biggest strength is that not that she gets to go out there and go after the person she wants, is that she gets to choose who she accepts, right? And she gets to dial him up or down to where she's at. He can't go any faster than you're willing
There
to
you
go,
go.
right? And so I'm saying on this though, in the sense of I think a lot of times when I'm making videos, I'm speaking towards that. Hey, make sure your man needs to show up this XYZ kind of a way. But here's the part I think a lot of women can struggle with oftentimes and they miss is whenever I'm speaking and saying those things, yeah, great, fine, and dandy. But also understand that where I'm speaking to hold men accountable, I'm speaking about the ideal kind of man that most of you most likely want. But now you have to ask yourself, am I actually going to be able to show up when that man is there? Am I going to be able to actually attract
Yep.
him? But then here's the piece. I think one of the biggest muscles that a lot of women have to be able to build is the ability to take
I
accountability.
love that.
Because, I can't tell you the amount of times where I have, when I have videos that go
Okay.
viral or what
What
have
are
you.
those type of videos? Like
And
what we're talking about, right? Okay.
yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna give
Okay.
two examples. So the first is when I maybe I'll do a video that's something like 3 signs that lets you know a man is not the right
Okay.
one for you, right? Or that he's the wrong he's the wrong one you should not
Okay.
be with, and that video do numbers because obviously I'm speaking to a lot of the pain points a lot of
Right.
women are facing with a lot of men out there, right? And on the comment section, like, yeah, see, men, they just really need to do this X, Y, and Z. And they're so, men are like children. They say all the things sometimes. Now, not all the women, but a good
Okay. No,
number of them,
that's
right?
good.
But then when I make the other video that says, okay, now, hey, fellas, this is the type of woman you shouldn't be with, right? Look out for these things. This might not be make sure you're not being taken advantage of. Then I get women commenting again, but this time it's, oh, well, it goes both ways. Or it's, well, we wouldn't do that if they didn't do
Yes.
this, right? To where they're not willing to stop and just own your part so that you can actually get the message to know where you can make an adjustment to get the results you want and the man you want. If you spend more time explaining why your habits that don't get you good results are okay because someone else is doing something, then you'll never be able to grow to actually match the vibration of the man you actually want in the caliber.
That is so good. Oh my goodness. I'm one of those women.
Charlene is crazy.
I was because I remember when I was in that phase in my singleness, and
Yeah.
again, I wish I would have known this stuff, and this is why, again, I am having guests like
Yeah.
you, and created this podcast, so we can all realize that really, in the end of the day, it comes down to us. It comes down to how we feel about ourselves. It comes down to how we're
Yep.
actually showing up. It comes down to really being real with ourselves. And it's basically like, girl,
Mm-hmm.
if you really are looking for yourself an emotionally available man, are you emotionally
Yeah.
available? You know?
Right. But still, watch this. I love you said that, right? Because I think that's the piece that gets women caught so often on their
Tell
end,
me.
right? Because we know a lot of men out there can be emotionally
Of course they
unavailable.
can.
We know that's a
Yes.
thing,
Yes.
right? Because masculine energy is not based in
Yep.
emotion. So that's
Yep.
easy. And so that's usually the space that a lot of women start from. They're always, okay, men, they're not emotionally available because feminine energy by default requires emotional availability. So therefore they feel, oh, I'm emotionally available. I just need a man that is. But see, the challenge for women usually isn't emotional availability. It's emotional intelligence, then emotional
That's what it was.
maturity.
Where I was going.
That's the
Exactly.
part.
Yep. He's right
Uh-huh.
there.
Uh-huh.
That's what we were going with. Emotional
Yeah.
maturity. Yes, because usually,
Mm-hmm.
oh my goodness, you're
Mm-hmm.
spot on. That is absolutely right. Because a masculine man that is emotionally mature, he's not going to be that one for you. Like, he will have the ability, ladies, to hear you out, and be there for you. But he's not going to be like the girlfriend. He's not, like, seriously. It's
Right.
a different it's a different energy. And so
Mm-hmm.
women are sometimes, I really believe this is where they think they get it confused, is that they're thinking that a man, when we're talking about emotionally available, they're going to be like the girl. They're going to be, they can just that's not what
Right.
a mature man does for us. A mature man, what he does is
Mm-hmm.
he has space for us to,
Mm-hmm.
handle our emotions and be in our emotions, but he doesn't take on that energy. He doesn't take on that energy.
Right.
And so I was going to say earlier, I love this conversation. I remember myself before I did this work and before I understood how
Yeah.
I was showing up. I too put all the blame on men. Seriously, I had no
Mm-hmm.
idea, man. I had no idea. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I really, back in the day, I didn't realize, it actually takes two people to have a relationship. So I was in the old school thinking, because it was my programming. And you know that this is how it goes. It's a lot of us
Yeah.
women's
Yeah.
programming that we've been hearing for so long,
Mm-hmm.
just like men have their own programming that they've been hearing for so long. Because
Yep.
I remember
Absolutely.
my programming as a woman was very negative, towards men.
Yeah.
And no fault
Yeah.
to anybody, but I'm just saying that really was my program.
Right. It
It
plays a
really
role.
plays a role. So when I would, deal with men and be in relationships with men, I could not for the life of me see how I was showing up, how I was also,
Yeah.
putting men in positions that I can imagine they just were just. I would have myself a nice masculine man, but the way
Right.
that I was showing up was just like, this is what I've learned. I said, a masculine man who's really truly in his masculine and he wants to do all the things. If he's in a relationship with a woman and she's fighting all the time and he'll shut down.
Right. Yeah, he will, because you're matching more of what he is. Because in order to fight, you have to get into a challenging energy, which is his energy. And we are all about polarity. And just like if a man is being too overly emotional, a woman doesn't find him attractive, right? Because it's too much of her own energy. You have to respect the balance. And that's when you were saying, a man, he's going to, when he's emotionally mature, right? He's not going to, you know, emote or be as soft the way she may be. He's going to hold space, but he'll be able to, he'll go there with you sometimes in a heartfelt conversation, but it's still going to have a masculine exterior and polish to it. He's going to still hold the
Yes,
polarity, right?
which is so sexy
Mm-hmm.
to us.
Yeah,
When
absolutely,
we were both
absolutely.
when we are again, I didn't have that for so long until I also
Mm-hmm.
myself work with someone. This
Yeah,
is why I feel it's so important, you guys. Like, I'm not just saying this. Like, I'm not literally just saying this. Man, if you are single right now, this is the time. Take the time for yourself to do this work. You can actually do a
mm-hmm.
lot of this work when you're single. You can break the patterns. You can learn yourself. You can learn how you're showing up. That's why you have coaches like Close Lois. Like, seriously, that's why you have coaches like me. We're here to guide you
Mm-hmm.
through this, because I don't even know how I would have, to be honest with you, truly shifted my whole perspective and stopped blaming men and stop attracting the men
Mm-hmm.
that I wasn't really wanting, unless I did
Yeah.
this work.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's impossible. I mean, you literally cannot do it, because you have to think about it like this.
Okay.
If you're not willing to do any work on
Okay.
yourself and you see this man that you're like, wow, he's the dream
Okay.
guy, that's it. And I mean, why does he not just want me? You have to ask yourself, if he's the dream guy, he had to do dream guy like work on himself to be the dream guy. And so if you're not willing to do the work, then he's never going to identify. He has to see himself in you in some form, in the female form, right? In his counterpart form. women have to always remember that a man sees a woman as an extension of his value, the one that he wants to
Love
be
it.
with,
Yes.
right? And so, yes, men in that masculine energy, we're very, and understand this, masculine energy is very physically and visually
Yes.
motivated. This is what's part of why men are so, sexually driven, visual and physical in that way. So when that is the case, he can detach from emotions, men that are still out there being casual, not looking for something very serious, and like you and think you're fun, a good time, and attractive, and maybe want to sleep with you, but not want to claim you, because in order to claim you, he has to see some of himself in you, meaning whatever he's building, which is he's really prideful about, right? Men take pride in what they build. Women tend to take more pride in themselves being the prize. So this man being prideful about his empire he's building wants a woman that complements the empire to where he feels like you represent what I am and you make what I'm doing better.
Yeah.
Not the other way around to where it's like, yeah, you're pretty face, you're great, we have a good time, but I don't necessarily see how you pour into what I'm building because what I'm building matters a lot to me. So if we bring it full circle, when we asked in the beginning, hey, what are women missing? Like I said, out on dates, you're not digging enough into what's really important to this man. What is he building? And how are you speaking to, showing him that you are a valuable asset to what he's building while you're also vetting to make sure he's an asset to your life and where you want to go.
Oh, yes. Oh, good stuff.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
because that's keeping it real. Ladies,
I mean, it's as real
this
as
is
it can
as
be.
real as it can be. You guys, honestly, that's why we're having these discussions because we have to start changing the way we're doing things because overall people are not happy for the most part and they keep
Yeah.
finding themselves in these patterns and they're starting to give up on love and they're starting to just kind of
Hmm.
settle and think that, relationships are not awesome. And I'm like, no, 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 no,
Yeah.
no, no. Relationships should be awesome. Honestly, should be awesome. Should
Yeah.
be awesome.
Yeah. And it's very easy to get there, right? Because if you keep practicing the same patterns of habits that don't get the results, you get burnt
Yeah,
out. Of course, if you think that there's nothing wrong with the formula, you're always going to think that it's just the market's wrong, right? Versus the formula that you're using.
right. You're gonna think so.
Mhm.
So let's talk about: is there if the listeners are listening right now and they're like, wow, okay, I'm listening, you guys, I'm listening. I'm liking this change in perspective when it comes to looking inwards and looking at myself and if we're wanting a certain type like you said a caliber of man which of course it's like ladies when we talk about we're the prize it's the same thing for the man they're looking for a certain type of caliber woman and just like he said
Hmm.
not it's not just the physical part but it's somebody that he can build with is somebody that's also going to help him fulfill his purpose as you're going to want to fulfill your
Hmm.
purpose and really become your guys' best versions of yourself and if we're
Hmm.
looking at it that way, what do you think, just an opening for women, where should they start? What do they how could they start really looking how they're showing up and what are these type of men that they want are also looking for?
Hmm. Okay, so I love that. I think when you begin always is you find a tangible
Yeah.
example. See, the funny thing is we live in a tangible world,
Okay.
right? And we usually shape our belief systems off of tangible experiences. And it's funny that when we think through the things we want, though, we start thinking
Okay.
conceptually, right? And we don't put enough. Okay, what does that look like? And so, just like even what we do as coaches, right? One of the reasons why I knew I got into being a coach instead of going the therapy route or something is because I'm all about the action. All right, after we get clarity, what are we going to do? Physical, tangible, something that builds new memories, new experiences, new confidence,
Oh,
new
I love that
beliefs.
you said that's what I
So,
love about coaching so much. It's exactly that. You guys, that's
yeah,
why coaching is so
exactly that.
amazing. It moves you forward in life. It
Hmm.
changes your patterns. Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, to answer the question, where you begin is you go out and you find a man, an example man that represents the archetype of what you claim
Okay.
you want. And then you study said man, right? I always, when I have clients, a lot of times I'll give them an assignment to go find someone that is famous. Not saying you look for
Yeah.
someone that's famous, but that way that person's life is pretty documented. They have, interviews, his biographies, and go learn that man's story and break down who he is. And what you're looking to do is match the person you're breaking down to a principles and morality standpoint. Because when you get to understand that, that dictates someone's beliefs. You understand what someone believes in, you can get some more context as to what he would find valuable in another
Yeah.
person, in you, right? As a woman. So I would say you start there. And then when you start there, start asking yourself, well, how do I measure up to the things I'm identifying right
Yes.
now? Or even this too. And look at this archetype of a man. Let's see the kind of women he tends to date. Or is that man married? What kind of woman is he married to? Let me like dissect her a little bit and just see where there's pieces or parts that I maybe have the tools of, the characteristics of, but I haven't put the work into building out. Because I always say it's not, if you're going to attract who you want best, you have to match what they want as well, right? And the thing is, the sexual marketplace, right? I love it because it keeps everyone honest. You don't get to decide your value on the
Right.
marketplace. Yes, your value as a person is always going to be on 100,
Yes.
right? But when it comes to the opposite sex or whoever you're looking to attract, you have no say so in that. They do. It's
Yep.
their call. So whenever it comes down to it, you have to ask yourself, all right, I'm never supposed to change myself for someone else just so I can be what they want. But the goal is, let me see the person I want, what they're looking for, and say what parts of what they're looking for that I can honestly say I'm not doing or not being, that I align with, that I think would benefit me to grow into, will be something I can adopt and start practicing said things. Maybe, and a lot of times,
So
the
good.
beginning pieces are just the simple, right? The simple things of women just putting more intentional effort into on the daily, carrying yourself with a certain polish, right? When you step out the house, keeping a certain look to you, right? To where, and it also the way you dress, make sure it matches the caliber you want to convey,
Yeah.
right? And then start putting yourself in the environments of the men out there that you're breaking down, or archetype wise, where they would spend their time. That's part of the architectural breakdown. It's okay. Not only how's this man think, but also where does he spend his time at? Where does he go for his leisure? Where is he, going whenever he's going to the gym? Where's he going whenever he wants to go let his hair down for maybe happy hour after work? Or where's he spend time with friends? Where's he like to go to, do hobbies? Where does he live? Where's he orbit? And then you match that to the life you like to live. See, this is where we got to start blending.
I'm telling you, this is so good. We need you.
Yeah.
No,
I'm so glad.
We need you.
Yeah.
I love the way that you're talking. You know what you're doing?
Yeah.
You are really changing the way that, I would say again, for the majority, not all of us, but for the majority, women look at when it comes to finding a man. You're helping us right now.
Yeah.
This is so good.
Yeah.
That's one
I'm
thing.
glad. I hope
it's good.
so.
It's good. No, I'm telling you, it's good. Yes. Because we have it wrong. And it's okay, you guys. It's okay. We can learn differently. This is the best part. Even if it's because we had it wrong, it doesn't mean that it has to stay wrong. We can actually change. Okay.
Right. And even simple things. I want to just add to that real fast. Yeah. So when you say like, hey, we're getting it wrong and so forth, right? Just the simple idea of, without you even breaking down the archetype of the man you want down to the nuts and bolts, right? Just the basics. If you think of a successful man that is out here on his, his grind, if you will, building his business, all the things, and he's like dresses well, and then you ask yourself, where does he spend his leisure time? Instantaneously, a lot of women that go out with the ladies and go to the club or go to the bar, it doesn't make sense, right? It's like, is that man really spending his time in the bar? And it's like right there, okay, I need to readjust the plans. And it comes down to, you have to start really ask yourself, where have I gone or who have I gone to vet what I actually want better, versus me spending time with people that I relate to that don't have the answer either, and we just come up with where we think we should go, right? No, be more concise and learn your target. I always like to say it is, right? Now, we don't think of men and women as targets, but that's what it is. It's like you have your eyes set on a particular kind of person, so you really got to learn that person's life and say, where does my life match up with some of the things they have interest in, so I can and here's where we go levels deep, so I can organically start to work the things and places I see that they would be, into my routine with things or places that I align with going to as well. So that the more reps I give myself to be in these areas, the better opportunities I give myself for the numbers game of it all to come across said man. Just like, because look, a woman doesn't have, unless she
Yeah.
wants to do it, doesn't have the same position of like a man to go pursue the woman that he wants, right? He's out there walking around, he sees whoever he sees, and he just goes for her. So if you're waiting for a man to approach you, you have to put yourself in the right environments, frequent enough, numbers game, to give yourself the best chance to be approached by the man that's right for you in that environment.
100%. And ladies, listen to that. Because if you're thinking of that, if you're like, and of course, if you're thinking, which I do love online dating too, but if you're like, oh, because I think it's another tool. But if you're like, I want to meet him in person, I want to meet him in person, listen to what he just said. You have to be in proximity.
Yeah, yes.
Like, seriously, you got to be in proximity.
Yes, proximity. You said the word. Let me tell you, you don't know how many women I have had sessions with and then sat in front of me and said, help me, I just don't know how to find these men. I said, okay, well, what's your life like? What do you do? Well, I don't really go very too many places. I sit there, got the glass of wine on the Friday night. How are you going to be found if you're not out there to be found? It's like impossible. And then that's where a lot of women they trick themselves. They go on to the online dating, right? Now, and like you said, I don't think of online dating as a bad thing. And I used to be on it 2 years ago and all that stuff, right? And it's a tool. But even just like going to the bar versus going to, I don't know, maybe some networking event where a man may be, you have to think the same thing about the type of online dating app you utilize. If it's like, think about online dating, at least the free ones, right? Most people utilize the free online dating apps. It's like going to a buffet.
Don't do the free ones.
Right, because it's like going to a buffet and paying your $13, but expecting to get a gourmet meal, right? It's like, that it doesn't make sense, right? And so even if you're going to go that direction, it's, hey, do your vetting to make sure that whatever online dating app you utilize, it has barriers of entry, something to where you have to be held to a certain caliber, or you have to care enough to invest some level to be on there.
Absolutely. That would actually matter. So that's what matters. And of course, with my clients, we get them on paid dating apps with more intentional and not those free ones, because the free ones I love what you just said. It's like a buffet. And then they're wondering why all these guys on these dating. I'm like, yeah, what kind of dating app are you at? You're not being intentional. You're not being more specific. You're not, like you just said. Oh my God. How? Right. Okay, we're gonna take this back for a second, because this has been already so good. First of all, your wisdom and already seriously, and already what you're sharing. I want to learn a little bit. Like, I know that you have your own journey and why you're doing what you're doing. And I want to take you back a little bit. I want to know, honestly, like, where is this coming from? And I'm sure it wasn't always like this. But tell me a little bit about, honestly, where did you grow up? And how did you grow up? And how was life, from the beginning for you?
Yeah. So, well, I'm from Pittsburgh, first off. PA 412, stand up and stuff. But, that's where I'm from. And it's important, actually, when I think about it, that was where I grew up, because it is a lot. I mean, it's changed a lot since, and it's expanded, I guess. But it was more of a smaller town mentality there, right? Because Pittsburgh, it's not as far up north to it's not close to New York, it's not close to Philadelphia, on things, and so it's often its own little Peachtree dish, if you will, its own little ecosystem, and it's a blue collar, small town mentality type of place. Now, I'm saying that because you don't get a lot of reps of new experiences with people and socializing and so forth. And so you can really be hindered in your growth to some degree unless you are really proactive about seeking it. And so I'm saying this because my beginnings, my journey was, it has some elements of shelteredness and just ignorance of some things, because it's simple life there. And so, so for me growing up, I was really shy. I was introverted and all those things. And I love playing video games and sports, but I was shy as heck for women and girls, right?
I can't even imagine. You're so handsome.
You would never think, right? You would never think.
Right when you just said that, I'm like, no, I don't know what he's talking about.
But back then, right? That's what it was. And as I grew and I wound up by stroke of events, I wound up relocating to Philadelphia to do my college years. that's where I really started to learn myself. But I'm saying that because I was a late bloomer with
You were.
dating.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I didn't really get into like dating and so forth until college. And so I obviously, with that being said, I was behind the ball on understanding women and all these different things. So I came across my first love there in college, and I was, got head over heels quick. And when I think back on it, it was just a catastrophe of how I was going about trying to
Well,
build a
you didn't
relationship.
know.
But
You didn't
you didn't know,
know.
right? You
And
don't
then let me ask
know,
you this: were your
right?
parents, if you're in a small town, were your parents together? Were they divorced, or what was the dynamics with them?
No, they weren't. They
Okay.
weren't together at the time, but they were very much in my life. So it was one of those things where, this might sound weird to say, but I think some kids can
Yeah.
relate. But I was one of those kids that was like happy when my parents kind of split because there wasn't as much of the conflict, right? It was like because they both equally loved me and they both were poured into me and they were very present. And in my mind, young mind, I was like, oh, so I can still have them both and love me and everything else, but they're not arguing because they're not by each other.
Okay,
Okay,
so
good, win.
what a
Right?
perspective. Oh my goodness,
Right,
that is
it was
so
a win in my young mind, and so yes, they split a long time ago, but they were there. So I never really even thought about it. That oh wow, people will call it broken
yeah,
home or
yeah,
whatever you want
because
to
you
say,
still felt the love.
and I never really
Still
think of
feeling
it
the
that way
love.
because my experience wasn't that. Right, yeah. So I still had the most important pieces. I got all that love that I actually needed, right, and I think even more importantly, as I've grown into the man I am now, to understand it, I got it in a really healthy way from my father, which is important
Yes.
because it was there was never any conversations about emotional maturity and availability and intelligence and all that, but it was always a safe space for me to lean into my emotions. Right, my dad would definitely still stay masked and say, "Hey, all right, where's your masculine energy at, right? Where don't we got to have some grit to you." But he never like treated me away for having an emotional moment, right? And so I grew being comfortable with that, so it helped a lot with me growing that lane. But fast forwarding back to
College to
that
that
college thing
girl.
and
What
that first
happened?
relationship, right? Back to that girl, right? Back to her. No, but but with
Because he's like,
that,
now I'm
you
out,
know,
now I'm out, and I'm ready. And I'm like,
right
oh,
now I'm out in the world. But look, but see, here's the thing. So even in that first
yeah.
experience, I wasn't thinking that way. She was the first person I dated, got into a whole relationship with her for
Oh,
five
you did.
years, and
Okay.
yeah, and it expanded the whole college period. So I didn't even get to like really
No,
date and learn
no,
myself, none of
yeah,
that
yeah.
stuff. And so I sold all my chips in, I would say early, but hey, I loved her and I was fine with that, right? And what wound up happening was down the road, you know, things
Yep.
happened. She did some things that didn't treat me
Okay.
so well, and I learned it was after across 5 years she would kind of had been cheating throughout that period,
Okay.
right? At
You were
different points,
clueless
right?
during this
And
time.
so
You had no idea.
completely
You were in
clueless,
love.
had no
You were like
idea
in love.
what. Yeah, right. And what happened one day, I found out about one thing, and then it like rabbit holed everything else. I started learning all the stuff started coming out, and it was just like everything. The world crashed around me, right?
Wow.
And it was in that time period, and I'm asking why and everything else, and she's telling me her truths, and it's just crushing blow after crushing
Yes.
blow. And
Yes.
so from there, we split up, and I went to really start trying to get back on the saddle and then prove myself that it wasn't something wrong with me,
Yes.
all the
Yes.
things
What
back
we
then,
think we
right?
something with
And
us.
yeah, we always
Yeah.
think that, right? And so through that, I started going on that kind of journey, and I was like not really trusting women back then, but I never became like someone that was being
Yeah.
unhealthy to
Yeah.
women, but I just was like not trying to invest, right? So I'm being casual, I'm just going to live in life. And going from that, eventually I wound up, started to talk to someone else, and I thought I did all the healing and all the things. Now I
Yep.
learned, right? And I'm saying this part of the story because that was the first fundamentals of me learning, oh wow, I gotta learn women better. And so at the time I was just like, you gotta learn how to be, look out for
Yeah.
signs better, red
Yeah. Right.
flags,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so I kept on going,
So,
and I went to the next person, but that person exposed I wasn't fully healed yet. But I wound up, getting in the relationship for 3 years, and through that one, I got left kind of suddenly,
okay.
right? We tried to do a business together and so forth, and then she wound up, sit me down one day and saying, I'm not really feeling this because the business wasn't going
Okay.
so well and stuff, and I was really tunnel vision and trying to figure it out. So she left me. It seemingly felt like overnight because there wasn't much
Okay.
convo before
Okay.
that. So then I'm like, oh my
Oh my
god,
goodness,
world
two of
turns
them.
upside
What
down again.
happened?
I mean, you're right. I'm like, here we go again. Then while I was still in the healing process, off of that, it was still fresh. happened to come across another woman, and unintentionally we started kind of dating, and then I got latched on, right, and then we started going through that process, and then wound up getting used a little
Okay.
bit in that, right, and then so she pulled back, and then she left. So now you can
Yeah,
imagine at
you're
this
like,
point, I'm like,
what?
what is what's going on here, right? So I'm like, I got kind of the cheated on of one, and then I got left by two women, and I'm just like, I need this to
Yeah,
stop.
yeah.
So I got tired, and I'm a tourist, right? So we can be
So
stubborn
and
with
you're
things,
like,
and so I was like, I'm figuring this out.
I'm in a pattern with these women. What is going on?
Right. So I was like, I got to do something to figure this out. So I pressed that big red stop button, I call it, and I stopped dating. It was like 6 months, and I got rigorous, and I became obsessed with figuring out what was I missing, what was I not knowing,
Ah,
working on, and it was through that I look back on those relationships. I said, oh my gosh, yes, it wasn't my fault that the first person chose to go
yep.
do all the shitting. No, but I said, man, I had to realize I didn't know how to show up and provide an experience that my woman needed on the other end
Ooh,
because I was
so good.
inexperienced. And so I was like, okay. So I started gathering that. Then I looked at the second one and I said, well, yeah, she left me not in the best way, but I had to realize I didn't know how to lead as a man. I failed to make her feel safe, even though I had the right intention to try to make us successful in
So
the business. I didn't check in
good.
with her emotionally, right? And then the last one, I realized, oh, well, you don't go into a whole new situation before you've healed your wounds of the past. And I was self medicating with her, and I let certain red flags go by because I was enjoying the dream, the fantasy, because it was helped me escape from the pain, and it felt so good, and the sex and
All
all
the
the
things.
things. And so all that, right? And so it was through all that, and then me really turning to say, well, what, as a man, what is my purpose here? What do I want to be doing? Like, really, what is my thing? And I've always been a good athlete. I've always been good,
Yeah,
artist and things like that. So I did music and I pursued football and
yeah.
all these things, and those weren't working. And when I got to this place and I started realizing, wow, I need something more. And it was through a lot of my binging I did of mentors. I went through like the Tony Robbins,
Yes.
and I went through all of
A
them.
lot
I
of
was
personal
like just
development
student,
coaching.
lot
Yes,
of it,
yes.
lot of it. And then it hit me one day. When I came on the other side, it was like 6 months went by. And I was like, one day I was like, oh wow, like life is just a lot different. Like it was so vibrant. I was like living so happy. I was making more money than I've ever
Woo!
made in my life at that time and all stuff.
Wow.
Because when I left, boy, I was starting from
Yes,
nothing at
yeah,
that
yeah.
time. And it was rough. And so I was crushing it there. I felt so good. I was doing my gym routines, and all the things were just firing off. And I said, I want other people to feel this way. I said, what would I do? And then I was like, oh my gosh, I think I was watching a Tony Robbins video, and I
Yes.
said, I want to do that. That feels great to help people do that. And then from there, I started really taking it serious and figuring out how do I become a life coach and all those things. And then on that journey, when I was first trying to help people, with life coaching, people aren't so proactive sometimes about working on their life until they get hit in the
Right.
heartstrings. And so, and I was like, why is this not working? And then I realized, I said, wait a minute. The thing that got me to stop and work on myself was my
That's
relationships.
so
So I
good.
said, let me turn that way. And then, yeah, and then I went into like really focusing on people and their relationships to help them in their life and their relationships. And it just took off from there, and it went on an amazing ride that it is to this day.
Wow. And you know why? Because you just said it. Not only that is such an alignment. In the beginning of our conversation today, we were talking about, women and, I asked you that question, how are we showing up? What are we what are we not seeing? What are we doing wrong? Right? And it
Hmm.
was taking you said to us basically, you got to look inwards. You got to understand, how you're showing up if you want to have a certain type of person. Like what are you
Yeah,
doing? So what you do now is exactly what you personally went through yourself. Oh, that's so
absolutely.
good. You guys, that's what I'm
Absolutely.
talking about.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
And that's the thing, and that's what I've always believed. Now, and through that is one of the core things I learned, that you don't go to someone for a result that they haven't been able to produce
Yes.
themselves. And and furthermore, that can't break it down into an understandable formula or help you walk
Yep.
your journey to get there because they've been where you
Yep.
are, right? And so that was such a huge piece for me. And then of course, I became obsessed with making myself a lights out coach and going and learning all the practices and the techniques and all the things and investing into the programs and all that. But yeah, it came from that foundation of I was where you were and I want to help you get to where I am,
Yes,
right?
because
And
you
it's
can
been
see
a
the light.
fuel
You're
driver
like,
forever.
I can see the light now because I was
Yeah.
so in a disempowering space in my life at one time, which is relatable for all of us, right? We've all been there. There's times in our lives that
Yeah.
we're in these positions that we're like, oh my goodness, this is frustrating, heavy. I'm not
Yeah.
getting the
And
myself.
yeah. And look, I wanna add something to what you were just
Add to it.
saying. Bringing it full
Okay.
circle to what we were saying about, hey, what women have to do, and everything else. And I was talking about that accountability. The main thing that helped me really transform, if
Okay.
you will, and have that blossom was accountability. I look back on all three of those situations and I stripped all of the blame towards the women. Yes, of course, they have things they're accountable
Yes.
for, but I only looked at where is my role that contributes to my results. And so I say this to men often, but people, period, can really
Yes.
benefit
That's
from it. When you learn to look at your results from your relationship woes or even your dating things where you're not finding the guy you want, ask yourself, how do I take blame for it all? What part of
good.
of that experience can I really soak up and
Yes.
say, whatever they did, either what was I doing that could cause this, or what was I not doing that allowed this to happen, or whatever,
That's
right?
so
What
good.
is my role? And I did that to take my power back. See, a lot of times I think women are scared to take that accountability because it feels like they're incriminating themselves. And let's think about it like this: all of us wants to be a good person. Nobody wants to be the
No,
bad
of
guy. I always
course.
say, right? And when you're coming from feminine energy, that's about connection and love. The last thing you want to do is be a part of the
Correct.
problem. So just like a man in his masculine energy wanting to be the
Yes.
champion doesn't want to be the
Yes.
problem, but for women it can hit deeper, right? So a lot of times I think women can struggle to say, all right, yeah, this man was, bad to me, or I came
Narcissist
across this
lied to
jerk.
me. He wasn't all the things. Yeah.
Right. And it's a struggle for her to say, but it's because I decided to date him, right? It's hard because then it makes it almost like you're justifying his actions or you're letting him off the hook in some way. But it so much empowers you and frees you from this feeling of
Yeah.
hopelessness whenever you can do something about it,
Yes.
because you can change who you identify. You can control whenever you see certain signs to not proceed forward. You can cue up your intuition and condition it better to be able to pick out signs way in advance before you get 3 months in and now you're noticing stuff later. You have all
You
that
have all
power
that
and it
power.
makes you feel so confident to go out there and get the results you want
Oh,
that way.
yes. Yay.
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
that is so freeing. You guys, listen up. Seriously. Oh man. Man, that's some nuggets right now, you guys. He's dropping those nuggets because that is so freeing. I really want you to hear this. I believe that with all my heart because when I myself was in my situation also, and I could not see myself until I also started working with a coach, really getting into self development, really tearing down the layers and wondering why I
Yeah.
showed up the way I was showing up. I went back from my
Hmm.
childhood. I was healing some stuff that I never really understood how subconsciously it was blocking me and it was keeping me kind of stuck. And until I took
Hmm.
full radical, that's the word I've used, radical
Yeah. It's a good word.
responsibility for Charlene instead of just being the victim. And I'm not saying that we don't have situations that we are victimized, but we still have
Hmm.
power to,
Yeah.
learn from our situations. And when I finally stopped
Yeah.
putting the blame on the guy and would say, oh, well, he's a jerk and he was yelling and he was this and he was that. But I took full radical responsibility for myself is when I was able to shift that energy and then now attract the man I'm with.
When the ball game changes, that's when it changes. And look, and I always like to say to what you were saying, right? I always say, yes, we people out there can be victimized, and then you can be a victim of a
Yep.
crime, but you can only continue to be a victim if you hold that state of
Yes.
mind. So you have to carry on an identity that you are a victim in order for you to continue to be one
Correct.
versus being victimized or being a victim of
Yes.
something. So and oftentimes and I'm always careful with my words to make sure it's not misconstrued. But like I've had videos that I've made, or because since a lot of people
Yes.
follow me, and where they're like, "Oh, it sounds like you're holding the victim and victim shaming." And so I'm like, "No, I just don't believe in being a victim. I believe in being a survivor." That's the only thing I'll ever believe in. Yes, I can go through something and say, yeah, this person
Yes.
victimized me, but I only continue to be their victim if I decide to be.
Absolutely.
Right?
And that is the
Yes.
most powerful thing. And not only that, ladies,
Hmm.
as a woman also who I would say my childhood was not ideal. And I was actually abused as a little girl. And what I did was for many years, I didn't understand that. And I felt more as the victim until I actually got help and understood that I actually can take my power back. And I didn't want to have that anymore, have any type of power or control over me. And even though
Hmm.
I was victimized, I didn't want to stay the victim. And I wanted to make sure that I took that back for myself and say, you know what? That happened to me, but that is not my story because I'm going to create
Hmm.
my own story moving forward. And
Yeah.
that only
Yeah.
happened because I actually did this work. I'm not even kidding. And that's why
Hmm.
coming
Yeah.
back to this over and over again. We have to be able to do that for ourselves. If you find yourself, if you've been in those situations, from childhood or with bad relationships, you got to take back that power and work with someone because it is so, thank you for saying this today, because it is so freeing and it actually gives you that full power so you can create whatever type of relationship you want. You are not stuck in your patterns if you don't want to be stuck in your patterns. You're not stuck with your past. And it doesn't matter if you've had bad relationships before. It doesn't mean that you have to continue on having bad relationships.
Exactly. It's about to continue. You don't have to continue, right? And I always tell people your past only serves one purpose, and you can actually, there's only two answers to one or the other route that you go. When you have things that's happened in the past, no matter how many bad relationships, no matter how many bad guys you dated, all the things, it's just information for you to use to build to be better. And so you have one or two directions to go. And sometimes it's a blend of the two. And first is, let me look at the narrative again and ask myself, did I give it its full fair shake? Is it as accurate as possible if the conclusion is a negative conclusion? And if you review it, sometimes you find, oh, I didn't actually think of this. So you can start to let go and disassociate your identity to that past. Or you recognize that either some of it was still accurate, even though maybe, okay, this wasn't, but this is, or maybe all of it's accurate. Then you ask yourself one simple question: what needs to happen moving forward so that that old narrative is obsolete and the new one replaces it? That's
Oh,
it.
there he goes again, dropping the mic. Oh, here we go. Yeah. How do they get in your world? How do they find you? How can they work with you? Okay, write this down right now. We're going to leave it in the show notes. Why do we get in your world?
Yeah.
Seriously.
I mean, everywhere we stop. But no, I mean, I'm literally on Instagram, as well as TikTok and YouTube. Well, actually, no. Let's see. Instagram and TikTok is Los Acie Rewired. If you look, LOSACIE
Okay.
Rewired, or on YouTube is Coach Los Rewired. And then on Facebook, it's just Los Acie, LOSACIE. And when you go to any of those, mainly through probably, or my website as well, losacie.com, if you want to reach out to there, do a contact form. But if you go, because most people contact me through social
Okay.
media, if you do go to either TikTok or if it's Instagram or if it's even Facebook, just DM me the word coaching, right? Or if you're looking for one-on-one coaching or looking to talk through that, or I also have a private community where I coach, women as a collective, if
Okay.
you will. So you could DM me or email me the word revival.
Okay. Okay. Did you guys hear that? We're going to put some of this stuff on the show notes, but get into his world. You can work with him. I mean, obviously, as you heard this conversation today, this was nothing. We just scratched the surface.
Yeah, it really is the
We
surface,
just
really.
really scratched the surface. So of course, you're going to come back to the show, and so we're gonna have you back, of course, because I tell you, we had just had a
Yeah,
full hour, and I literally felt like we just scratched the surface.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I loved it. It's been
No,
great.
seriously, I know that we talked a little bit about this and a little bit about that, and you guys, seriously, I was just blown away by this conversation. I hope it was really helpful for you too. Is there
Yeah, me too.
anything else that you want to share? Obviously, before we have to end this conversation.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, actually, there is. Since I know we were talking a lot this call about women preparing themselves better to be able to attract the man they want in
Okay.
dating. It's rarely that the conversation literally leads right into this, but I have a book
Oh,
out
let's hear
right
about
now that is, yeah, it's called Joker Proof Dating, the unlocking the secrets to vetting a man in minutes. To where I literally in that book break down how you can vet a man in or out within the first 10 to 15 minutes, if not by the end of the first
it.
date.
Oh,
To where you're not wasting all of your time, you're not going on the extra levels that doesn't fit for you. But I'll tell you already, that book is designed to help you learn how to dot the I's and cross the T's on your end to be able to identify that right man and be able to vet him best. You have to become the thing first to have the thing. And so, where yes, you're going to learn all the nifty tips and tricks, if you will, of how to identify the man that's not right for you or the one that is. You have to become a certain woman in order to fully be able to execute what's in the
okay.
book.
We're all
But
getting the
yeah,
book. We're
wonderful.
all getting the book. What is the name?
Yes, it's on Amazon. It's called Joker Proof Dating.
Okay. Can we get the link to that? And we'll leave it here in the show notes also, or do they have to go to Amazon?
Absolutely. No, I can drop the link here too. But yeah, it's on Amazon. If you look up Joker Proof Dating, it'll come up. But yeah, I can put the link
Okay.
here too.
Okay. We're gonna do that, you guys, because we got. If you're a single lady, like, get the book. Like, seriously, get the book.
Yeah, you probably might want to.
And then, matter of fact, if for some reason too, I know that we're on the podcast right now, but please email that to us also. Yeah, that'll be
Okay,
easier
most
because then
definitely will do.
my team can get a hold of that, and the producer can make sure that he puts that link here, so it can make it easy for everyone to grab that book. Ladies, grab that book. Thank you for saying that. No, thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad it came to my
No,
mind.
I'm really happy. That's such a great tool. You guys, that's what we need. We need certain tools. Okay. So you had this great conversation. I hope you learned so much and it was valuable because it was so valuable for me. But on top of that, there's tools here too. So that's a great tool. So thank you I really appreciate you sharing that with us. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I'm glad I get the opportunity
Yes,
to.
and again, you ladies, we'll bring them back. I promise, we'll bring them back. But we have.
I'm
I
around.
gotta end now. But until next time, cheers to great love. Let's talk about the tip of the week, which is 4 key signs that he's really into you. 1, he wants to get to know you. If he's making a strong effort to get to know you and what drives you, what lights you up, and who you really are, then he's into you. 2, he prioritizes spending time with you. He makes a consistent effort to plan dates and spend quality time with you. He craves being in your presence. 3, the relationship progresses. He progresses the relationships by growing your connection and making plans to co-create a future together. 4, he invests in you. He's willing to invest time, energy, and his finances into building a relationship and a commitment with you that is above and beyond dates and superficial connection. In love, it's important to stop second guessing and start knowing where you stand. When a man is truly into you, the signs are there. You just need to recognize them. If you would like to know more about how you can step into your feminine energy, your intuition, and learn how to receive with confidence and take control of your love life, I have a free gift for you. I created an ebook called The Magnetic Woman. It's a step-by-step guide that will help you embody your feminine essence and attract the relationship that you truly desire. Please check the show notes for the link. That's a wrap. Thank you, Coach Lowe's, for all your wisdom and heart, helping us find the love we truly desire. If you're loving this podcast and these incredible conversations, please hit the subscribe button and leave a 5-star review. Don't miss an episode because each week I'll be bringing on guests and experts who will share their knowledge about love, dating, and relationships so you can apply it into your own life. I'll see you next week. And until then, cheers to great love.